Hello and welcome to Spring Office Hours Season 3, Episode 1, Spring into the New Year. My name is Dan Vega, Spring Developer Advocate at Broadcom. Today I am joined with my good friend and coworker, DaShaun. DaShaun, how are you doing?
I'm excited to be here. We made it into 2024, and yeah, my rest worked. I had some time off. I'm ready to go, and I'm glad that you're here with me. I really am. Let's get started.
Yeah, you said Season 3. This is exciting. We kind of changed things up. We are now doing these by season, which I think is nice. We ended Season 2 with a good episode. And then, as you said, you were going on a little vacation. You said you weren't going to do any work. You put your laptop away, and I think that's a great idea. A little bit of reset time. I mostly didn't do any work either, so yeah, it was good to kind of reset, come back fresh, ready to go. Season 3, here we are.
I was excited to be back here, Spring Office Hours. It's like my favorite time of the week. I love connecting with this community. I'm excited about all the conversations that spread from this event that happens.
Yep.
And I'm also I'm glad to be here. I'm glad to be on this side of the calendar.
Yep. I'm excited about the future of this show because, like we said, this is Season 3. We started this out. This was really just kind of an idea, a little project of ours. We wanted to get involved in the community a little bit more. Finally, help out, answer some questions, and it's kind of morphed into this bigger thing now. And now it's it was a live stream, and now it's a podcast, and now we have guests, and yeah, so it's been growing. It's been a lot of fun to watch it grow, and I wrote some blog posts over break, and that was one of the things I kind of reflected on, just where we've come with Spring Office Hours. So I'm proud of where this show has come. I'm happy to be doing it with you, and I'm excited about the future of the show.
Absolutely. This is the thing I wish I had when I was a developer. It's the thing I wish I had. I wish I had something like this. I would be eating it up, and I did.
So I was talking to you about this before the show, but I love this New Year's time of year. I know everybody kind of resets, set some goals. One of my favorite things to do is just kind of clean everything up. I'm very organized, but towards the end of the year, things pile up, papers pile up. And I like to clean out all of my systems, go through my email, try to get back to inbox 0, go through all the notifications, try to clean those up. I put everything into Notion. I use Notion for managing my life. I spent some time kind of cleaning that up. One of the things we talked about over, maybe a couple of months ago was I got all of my passwords moved from something else to 1Password
There you go.
at the advice of one of our Spring security experts. So I did that, and I'm feeling good about that now, and I'm even getting the family on that. So just a whole bunch of those like cleanup tasks. Why doing that coming into work today, I was just like, oh, I feel like clean, refreshed, huge, ready to go with everything that's coming our way. So
The day after Christmas happened. Christmas evening, after everybody left, we cleaned up. We packed away everything, all the decorations, everything put away, because the next morning we got in the car and we drove. And we went on our vacation. So when we came back, well, one of the other things I did, you talk about resetting and cleaning up. I went through my passwords and I cleaned up passwords and I got rid of old things that were sitting around. Let's go clean that up. I also rebuilt some clusters. I redeployed some Raspberry Pis. I got a couple of Raspberry Pi 5s in my possession, deploying these things, and I got a new MacBook, and I'm doing that right now as we speak. I'm reinstalling a MacBook, repaving the infrastructure. Shouldn't that happen once a year? Repave.
Yep.
Good idea.
Yeah,
I'm
and
excited for
now that you say that, as good of a feeling as this is, I really should do this more often, maybe once a quarter, because it helps kind of clean things up and gives you a little bit more of a perspective on things. So,
Do you want to know what else feels good? It feels really good when your software just updates itself.
Yeah.
I'm starting to find joy when when the community, especially the open source community, when they say, hey, I've got something for you. From us to you. And it feels personal. They're giving me these updates all the time. I'm getting all these cool updates.
Right.
I really enjoy that feeling.
Yep. Cool. Just looking through the comments here, just to remind everyone, we do a live stream every week. We'll talk about that in a second, but we do a live stream every week. So if you want to join us, you can you can find out more about this on springofficehours.io. If you are joining us in a live stream, feel free to get your questions in. Part of this is being able to answer your questions. So if you have questions, please go ahead and ask them. If you are not able to join the live stream, we turn this into a podcast. So you can get this podcast wherever you listen to your podcasts. So if you want to listen to us on the go, in the car, on the treadmill, my favorite places to listen, go ahead and check that out. So as far as podcasts and days, I think we have a few announcements that we want to talk about as we head into season 3. And then what we'll do is we'll talk about things that we're going to be focused on this year. Again, this is a good time to kind of reflect and figure out where we want to focus on, because I think it's important to do that, because if you don't, and you just kind of like let things come at you, then those things that you want to focus on will no longer be a focus, because you're just kind of being reactive, right? So we're going to talk about some of the things DaShaun and I want to focus on in the new year. So, first, a couple announcements. One, we do this show every Tuesday at 3:30 Eastern as far as season 2 goes. We are going to move this show to Mondays.
Moving to Monday?
Moving on to Monday.
That is a huge announcement.
Yes, big announcement. We're moving the live stream to Monday at 1 o'clock Eastern. And the podcast will then come out Tuesday morning. So I will get that out that night. That will be scheduled for Tuesday mornings. You'll have the podcast on Tuesday. The reason we're doing this is because we found out last year that a lot of travel that happens throughout the week begins on a Tuesday. So we leave on a Tuesday, and then we have to like reschedule this live stream. And it was tough at times. So we thought moving to Monday, we're fresh off of last week. We can talk about things that went on last week. We can not miss episodes due to travels. I mean, it's still going to come up, but I think less frequently. So I think that was the kind of reasoning behind that. So hopefully that doesn't impact anyone. I know we have a worldwide audience, DaShaun, which is really exciting.
So happy.
So having live streams, we're not going to find a time where everybody can join us, but you can always catch the replay or catch the podcast episode.
We're glad that you're here.
So that's that. Number 2, springofficehours.io. That is the URL that we always tell you about. Right now, it forwards to the Tanzu Developer Center. That's where all our episodes are hosted. We are working on a dedicated website for spring office hours. And this will allow us to do a couple things. One, have a little bit more flexibility on like, we don't control any of the merges that happen on the Tanzu Developer Center. So sometimes it's tough to like get things in and change things. And also because we don't control that, we can't do a lot of the things we want to do with like automation, right? Like we want to do one thing and like push it to, a bunch of different places and update show notes and things like that. Yeah. So I think one thing we'd like to hear from the audience is like on this dedicated website, outside the ability to like find a show, see the show notes, play it through like some podcast player right on the website, what features would you be interested in?
We want to bring you in. We want to bring you into the office hours. We want to make it more engaging for you. What are some things that you wish you had as you're sitting here watching or joining or listening or thinking about the question you might want to ask? What's something else that we could do to maybe make this relationship a little bit better? How could we do that maybe via a website?
Yeah, maybe a place to be able to ask questions, maybe a place to like join in a discussion about something. We have some ideas, but yeah, we'd definitely love to hear from you. So I think as far as announcements, those are the two big ones. We will get a show scheduled for next week. So that is going to be on Monday. We have a topic already, so we're excited about that. And we'll start to schedule out some of these shows a little bit more in advance so that you have a little bit of an idea of what we're going to be doing next. So excited about that. Speaking of, I have my fancy Code Mash hoodie on. I love this hoodie. I will be at Code Mash next week. I'm excited about that. I am giving two talks. That is in Sandusky, Ohio.
Sandusky.
Right in a water park.
In a water park.
Kalahari Water Park. A lot of fun. I love that. I love this conference because I get to see. It's not just a Java conference either. It's there's actually in Ohio, probably in Northeast Ohio. It's a lot bigger of like a C#, Microsoft .NET crowd. But there's a lot of Java developers in Northeast Ohio and like middle of Ohio, like in the Columbus area. So we get a nice group of Java developers there. There'll be some spring talks. We have a dinner with Chris Judd every year, who organizes this dinner at local pizzeria.
Chris Judd would be a good candidate. We should have him on the show.
We absolutely can anytime we want. We should definitely talk to him. So yeah, let's do that.
If you're listening,
I will talk to him next week about that. We need to get him on. So yeah, I'm excited about that. In that, I am talking about GraphQL. I'm also doing a brand new talk on DevRel. So
what is DevRel?
What is DevRel? How do you define it? Where does it fit in an organization? What does it take to be a developer advocate?
Todd Libby just showed up just magically. I don't know what happened, how that happened. It was just we start talking about
that's
DevRel
what you do. You
boom.
say DevRel, and Todd Libby shows up.
Amazing.
So yeah, so I'm excited about that. Been working on that the last couple of weeks. I'm always excited to give new talks because I love like talks that I've done before because they're polished. Like I understand what I need to do, what fits within that time frame. New talks are like, they're a new book, right?
Yep.
And it's fun putting a new book together.
So here's where we are. You and I both have talked about both spring developer advocates long before we were on this team, on Tasha's team. And you're doing this new talk, DevRel. I would like to kind of circle back. What is DevRel, Dev Advocacy? How are they different? What do they mean? What's that? There's kind of a big umbrella for people that are doing what?
Yep.
What is it? Give me your 2 cents.
Well, so one of the things I talk about in this talk is I say, well, how do you define DevRel, right? How do you define developer advocacy? The thing is, if you ask 7 to 10 developers to define it, you are going to get 7 to 10 probably different answers. And the reason for that is because it means something different to different organizations. It also means something different to different teams within organizations. So there's no blanket statement of like, this is what developer advocacy is. One of the things that I really love or think about when I think about dev advocacy is it's the intersection between education, community, and product. We are in the middle of educating other developers who are trying to use the products that we're advocating for. So I think if you can get in the middle of that, if you can create content so people can learn about your products, and you can also take that feedback from the community back to the engineering teams, I think that's a good place to be as far as an advocate goes.
So before, we kind of circled in. You've got this new talk, this new thing that you're working on, and it's content around developer relations, developer advocacy. In previous roles, inside of large enterprise customer, we worked on product. Oh, there's this really cool thing that I've got an idea I think would really help our organization. And what do? Right? There's a lot of amazing products, amazing developments that just didn't get the energy, the momentum that they needed in order to do all the value that they could have.
Yep.
So you talk about education, community, and product. This isn't just community roles like us out in the open source.
Right.
This role exists formally in a lot of organizations, but I think also informally. There's somebody that inside of your org that is kind of like that person that you go to. They've got the new cool ideas. They're doing the new cool things, and they're documenting it well. They're talking about it at lunch, and they're sharing what they learn, and they're asking for feedback.
Yep, and they're reading the GitHub issues and finding out what problems people are having and improving on these products. So, so there's a lot to talk about there, and I say I say we do a show on it next week. I think that's what we're gonna do. So, if you want to hear a little bit more about DevRel, what we think DevRel is, and maybe give you a little bit of inspiration if it's something you're interested in getting in as a profession or just as like you said, within your organization, being able to help out. So, that should be fun.
That'll be a great talk. Perfect.
But cool. But today we're going to talk about something different. We're talking about New Year's stuff, focus. What are we focused on this year? What do we want to learn? Do we have any goals for this year? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kickstart this conversation with sharing a blog post that I wrote. Just says Happy New Year 2024. And I just went through every year. I kind of jot down my ideas of what did I do last year in one post. So a reflection of what I did. And then, hey, what do I want to focus on this year? I used to set, there's a really good book. There's a couple of good books that I like on this, but I used to set more SMART goals. I don't even remember what the acronym is now, measurable, obtainable, There's a way to define goals that you can have. I stopped doing this once I had young kids. I was like, I just
got time for that.
Who's got time for setting goals? So now I kind of just set things that I want to focus on. And maybe once a quarter I'll check in and go, okay, these are the things I said I wanted to focus on this year. Am I still focused on them, or do we need to bring the train back on the tracks a little? And these things change, because different things happen and objectives come up and these things will change. But so I'll kick this off, and then this will be kind of a way to talk about things that we want to focus on this year. And we'd love to hear from you, obviously, because as we just said, we're an extension of the community. We want to talk about and build things with the things that you're interested in. So cool. So I think from a Java perspective, Java 21 still very top of mind for me, especially with Spring Boot 3.2, virtual threads. I see a lot of buzz around everything that's going on with virtual threads. I think you and I both shared this out, but there was a case study done of some million row record thing against a database with virtual threads. And I know you had something else that you shared out with that. Yep. So I think that is very top of mind still for me.
That is from the creator of the CDC tool that I cannot think of the name because you brought it up. But yeah, that's going to be a fun one.
Yeah. So I think that's top of mind. Everything that went into Spring Boot 3, 3.1, 3.2. It was 1 billion rows, not 1 million. I knew it was some pretty cool benchmark. Everything that went into 3, 3.1, 3.2, and what's coming in Java 22, these were all around runtime efficiency. There was a big theme around building different applications for different workloads, right? And Java and Spring are both helping us with that. So I'm looking forward to Java 22 already. That's, in a couple months. We're not far from that.
I like to say that Java 21 is middle age. It's been out for 3 months.
It is
Java
middle
22
aged.
is around the corner. Early access is available. We get a new version of Java every 6 months, and it's been over 3 months since Java 21 went GA. So wouldn't that qualify as middle age?
Yeah. And outside of that, I haven't had a chance to really dig into what's coming in 22. I know some of the features around Project Layden are. I'm trying to think. I think that everything else in Project Loom is going to be a preview again. I think I saw that. So structure concurrency, scope values. I'm really looking forward towards those. Don't take me at. I have to look into that, but yeah. So here, if you're here in the live stream, we're sharing a link to that, morelean.dev. There's a 1 billion row challenge. That's pretty cool.
Yes.
So that's Java 21, Java 22. I love Java. Excited to do all the things Java. And also, on the other flip side of Java, I threw something up at the end of last year and I said, should I learn Kotlin? And the people spoke and they said I should learn Kotlin. So I'm going to take a personal dive into Kotlin for a couple of reasons. One, I'm a Spring developer advocate, and there are Kotlin developers who are building Spring applications. So I think this is a good thing for me to understand. Two, I want to understand like Kotlin versus Java. I know from the surface, if I was building like mobile applications, Kotlin would be where I reach for if I was building Android applications, but I don't have any Android devices. I don't even build apps for the iPhone or the iPad that I have. But if I was going to build Android, I believe Kotlin is the number one way to do that. And then I just really want to understand like what are the reasons people reach for Kotlin. And I know there are like some great language features there, and I would just love to understand that. So I think I'm going to dive into that.
Fantastic.
Pretty soon.
Yeah. I am not. I don't know. I'm sorry. I am not going to dive into Kotlin this year. I am going to try. I'm going to really, really try to become a Spring certified professional. I'm going to study, and I'm going to take the tests, and I'm going to go to Spring Academy, and I'm going to do everything that's available there, and I'm going to take that test. And that's what I'm going to do first. I'm going to focus on that.
That is right at the top of my Spring list. So Spring Academy, being able to, I think first and foremost, I just want to make people more aware of Spring Academy. I mean, you and I share it out all the time, and I think it's, we're not being asked to push Spring Academy to anybody. Like it's a genuine, we want to share it because it's a really great place to, again, education, right? Education of Spring ecosystem products. This is a great place to go for it. And I want to just make people more aware of it, what's available there as far as like courses and content. And like you, I want to go through and get Spring certified because I think, just being able for us to be able to document that journey and let people know that, hey, maybe it's not as scary as you thought it was.
I'm just jealous.
Yeah, I know.
I'm jealous that for years I beg, I wish I could do that, and I don't have the money to do it, and now it's there, and it's available, and it's affordable, and I'm just jealous of everybody else. I just want to do it. I've got FOMO.
Yep, I'm with you. So I'm excited about that. We'll have to share notes as we start going through this. So
one thing I want to share on that, I was reading just on my phone. I'm thinking about, hey, I want to do some stuff around Spring Batch. I didn't know that Michael Manella has written multiple books around Spring Batch. Did you know that?
I did not know that. I mean, I did know he wrote books before. I didn't know it was on Spring Batch. So
yes, and it's one of the free courses on Spring Academy. I went and I kind of noodled, and I was just on my phone. Like you can go and learn, and you can read and pick up these things. Just cool. And I picked up a bunch, and I loved it. So even though I didn't have my laptop out, I was still learning from Spring Academy. I just want to throw that out there.
That's awesome.
I really enjoy it. It's a great site.
Yeah, and that's on the topic of Spring Academy, that's something else that I want to focus on this year is maybe getting a little bit more involved in like helping produce some content there. I don't know what that looks like yet. We're still trying to figure that out, but I would love to help out wherever I can. So
I think you do a great job of producing content. I'm just gonna throw that out
thank
there.
you. I appreciate it. So do you, Mr. I'm streaming every single day now.
I'm working on it. Baby steps.
You're doing a great job. Where do you stream at every single day?
Every single day. Right now I'm doing YouTube,
All right.
youtube.com/@DaShaun. I'm doing twitch.tv/JavaGrunt, kick.com/JavaGrunt, Twitter
All right.
@DaShaun, and LinkedIn @DaShaun.
All right.
So I'm streaming
Cool.
to 5 different places every day.
Nice.
8:30 to 10:30 Central is kind of the goal. I got a
Yep.
little bit of a head start on it in 2023, and it's just been fun. It's just
Yeah.
I'm doing some code.
Yep.
I'm walking through stuff, but I'm also answering questions. Just trying to be available.
And that's great. Again, that's being involved in the community, building stuff with the products and coming across things and just sharing it with people. And
Yeah.
I love what you're doing. So
Just
keep
take it
doing
wherever it goes. I've got
Yep.
no like roadmap of things I want
That's
to
good.
accomplish. Just
Yeah.
wherever the
Yeah.
show takes me, that's where I'll go. And it's been
Well, I
fun so
think-
far.
One of the places the show has taken you already, Spring AI, and AI in general is one of my main focuses in 2024.
How cool is it?
I'm just fascinated with AI in general. I watched like one of the 60 minutes over break that had like a collection of all the AI talks throughout the year. And I was just like really jumping into those. I ended up buying a book, that AI Superpowers. I'm already halfway through that book and I'm really enjoying that book. So yeah, if you have book recommendations on AI, please get those in here.
I mean, by the time they're in a book, they're outdated, right?
Yeah, I know, but I still like, even though like you kind of hear content on this all the time, it's fun. Like I had an audio, the AI Superpowers book that I'm going through is an Audible book so that I can listen to it on the treadmill, and just like hearing like people talk through like definitions of things you hear all the time, like neural networks and large language models, and like trying to get like a deeper understanding of just those concepts that you hear all the time. Those are still kind of relevant, right? So enjoying that, but more specifically, Spring AI. Spring AI is now out of the experimental phase. It's actually under the Spring Projects umbrella. And there's just a lot of change going on there because there's a lot of things happening in the world of AI, right? So you've had a chance to gave an interview. You did an interview with Mark Pollock on this show, and you've done a lot of live streams. I know you and Josh have built some stuff on the live stream. What are your kind of first impressions of Spring AI and kind of where that's going?
So where I'm at right now, I always kind of map Spring data and how Spring data gives me these abstractions across MySQL or Postgres or Yugabyte or Redis. I have this kind of like common way of interfacing with these different data stores. Spring AI kind of gives me that. I have now this flexibility where I can plug in different models like ChatGPT, like Claude, like others, and I can have my own as well, and I can plug them in, and I can start to take things from output from one model and feed it into the input to another model and get these really interesting workflows.
That's awesome.
And Spring AI makes it easy to do that. So that's where I'm at, and it's been fun. Baby steps, right?
Yep.
And the more that you do, the more it kind of opens up the door to something next, and that's really fun.
Yeah, so I'm going to be focused on that. Excited about that. GraphQL, I'm continuing to focus on just because I'm interested in it. I've given some talks on it. I'm giving some talks on it this year. And just kind of all the things that are coming along in Spring for GraphQL. So I'm excited to talk about that. I know Spring Boot Migrator, Open Rewrite are on probably top of your list too. You're a big fan of those. Just helping everyone who's having those migration questions of like, how do I get from Spring Boot 2 to Spring Boot 3 or Java 8 to Java 17? Again, more of an awareness thing, right? Like, not every time we have talks with customers, they aren't aware of these tools and really just kind of opening some eyes, right?
I think for anybody that's been here on this show or seen anything that I've done over the past few years,
right,
they are aware of Open Rewrite. They're aware of the Spring Boot Migrator. And it almost surprises me, even though it shouldn't. It surprises me when I go in front of an audience and they have not heard of any of this. And they are still running Spring Boot 1.5. And when I show them how easy it can be, not in all cases, but in some cases, how easy it can be to get upgraded. And then I tell them like, hey, like maybe you're going to get stuck. Maybe it's not easy for your team. Maybe you're doing something really specific, really proprietary, and it's mission critical, and you don't want to go alone. And maybe you want some help. A lot of people don't realize like the other part of Spring and what we do here is we're not just like building these libraries and like sending them out into the world. We also have Spring Consulting. We've got this group of experts that come in and sit down next to you, and they work with your team, and they help bootstrap or kickstart or develop custom stuff with your team.
Yep.
And people have no idea that that's what we do, and we're a tiny little part of that we're a tiny piece of that pie that makes up this Spring conglomerate.
Yep.
Within VMware by Broadcom. And I love it. I love it. I love when people are learning new things about what the possibilities are around Spring and what you can do today and day two.
Yeah. So if you or your team are looking to migrate this year to a newer version of Java, a newer version of Spring, and you need some help, please feel free to reach out to us.
So right now, just on that topic, what have we said? Our guidance was like upgrade Java first, right? Because you get a bunch of benefit. That's going to kind of be your easiest thing. Yeah, and it's no cost, kind of low barrier. There's going to be some issues, but a lot of the stuff upgrading from Java 8 or 11 to 17, which you need to run Spring Boot 3, a lot of that stuff is handled by your IDE or by some plugin. Those are pretty much easy cases that everybody's done. It's been out for a long enough time where that's easy. So get there. And then we say, hey, here's Spring Boot Migrator, here's some other tools. But now we've got even more tools. Now we've got a tool called the Spring Health Assessment Report, right? That you can go and sign up for. I should probably throw a link in. That you can go and you can analyze your dependencies, and you can kind of get a report like, hey, this is an easy upgrade, or this might be a little bit harder, or you've got some really critical vulnerabilities in this. We got more and more tools. We're continuing to add more tools into your tool belt to help you on this upgrade process. I know that the commercial support for Spring Boot 2.7 has been extended all the way into 2025. But that is crazy. I don't even know how to do that. I even close the lid and it's still going. So we have all these new tools. And in 2025, I don't want anybody to be running Spring Boot 2.7. There's so many tools, so many options, and so many teams. We have so many people here that are willing to help you, and partners that are willing to help you in that upgrade journey. That should be your goal, is to not be on Spring Boot 2. Get up to Spring Boot 3 at a minimum by 2025. By this year, 2024, you should be at least Spring Boot 3. And some of you that come here all the time, you know that you should be on the latest and greatest. Not in this N-1 stuff. You should be on the latest and greatest because you've been here enough. You know how easy it is to do. And I want that for you. And right on cue, here's Jonathan.
Where is it? Oh. And there it is. Jonathan is here. He says, I've joined recently, so not sure you got an answer, but I would recommend creating an issue for Spring Framework. Oh,
I think that is to address.
That is in reference to this. So there is a question that came in. Is there a plan to have REST test client, just like we already have web test client and test REST template? And so, yeah, I would echo Jonathan's. I know I've asked this question. There is already, I believe, an issue on this. So go search for it. I think it's there. There isn't one right now. There is a way to, I think there's like a test REST client builder, or you can use a REST client builder to just create an instance. But yeah, I don't know the answer to that, but I also have heard that question, and I actually asked the question too around that. So we'll see if we can't find the answer for you.
Yeah, and I'm looking, I like to use Spring REST docs, and I don't know what it uses under the covers. I don't think it uses test client. It's got its own little thing, right?
Right. So with the new REST client, they're basically saying, hey, when I'm writing tests, I used to have something called test REST template that I can inject. There was a bean created for me. There isn't a test REST client that automatically gets created. There's a way to get an instance of it in there, but like it's not as intuitive as that, I guess. So yeah, I also have those same questions. We'll see if we can't find an answer for you there.
So that Jonathan's here. One of my other goals for this year is I want to create a PR that Jonathan gets to do the merge on. in that umbrella of products that Jonathan has his fingers on, I would like to do in 2024. I'd like to create a PR for something where Jonathan gets to do the thumbs up and let's merge this. That is
Nice.
one of my goals. It's right here on my list. That's one of my goals for 2024.
All right. So can't paste links, but the issue number 31275 under Spring
Fantastic.
Framework.
Thank you so much.
Look at our audience is amazing. We just found it right away. So thank you very much, Solitary Turin.
You know what? Also, that Jonathan is here. One of the cool things about being a part of this community is you get some opportunities. And Jonathan is a part of our engineering team, and he delivers amazing things. But right now, Jonathan and his teammates are planning the next versions of Spring Boot and Micrometer and others. And wouldn't it be cool for you if you could have some say, if you've got something that you feel like it's missing, maybe it's not a good enough idea to articulate into a GitHub issue or a feature request just yet, but maybe you've got some ideas. Maybe you use what's available inside of the Spring ecosystem for your tracing and logs and metrics and other. And maybe you would like to have a conversation with somebody from the Spring team. And maybe you would like, I think it'd be cool to have a conversation about like, hey, I think it'd be cool if you could do this. If that sounds interesting to you or your team or somebody that you know, we would love to be able to introduce you and maybe help define what's on the roadmap for some of the Spring products under the Spring umbrella. If that sounds interesting to you, reach out. We would love to hear from you. And I think Jonathan would too.
All right. I got a question here. Hi, guys. Thanks for all your help. I have a question on Spring plain WebSocket library not using Stomp. Is there a default heartbeat setup? If not, how do I implement it? So I wonder why not using Stomp? Because if you go to start.spring.io and pick like WebSocket, I believe it's like sock.js and Stomp. So what, if you're not using that, what are you using?
Yeah. And I feel like maybe it was Jay, maybe it was you as well. I feel like this question came up and whoever addressed it said the same thing. Why not Stomp? So yeah, that's something that maybe we want to articulate. And yeah, and sometimes maybe it's not as easy. It says my client has limitation. So yeah, here's the thing. I don't have all the answers, but sometimes I have friends on Slack that I can reach out to and help get the answers. But I'm also available to sit down and maybe talk through it. And I might not have the answer, but I'm happy to kind of talk through and explore some of your options. If you are interested in that, call me. Give me a buzz.
Cool. Yeah.
That seems like something we want to have a conversation around.
Yeah, because if it's not using Stomp, I'm interested to see what it's using to talk to WebSocket protocol. And then if that's the case, if there's a default heartbeat, I don't know, based on whatever library you're using. So yeah. Okay, I got another question here from Sid that says, is it correct to say that Spring Data JDBC is like Spring Data JPA without the JPA interfaces? So Spring Data is the umbrella project. The idea of Spring Data is to kind of give you this consistent programming model for accessing relational and non-relational databases across all the different types of databases that you may run into, while kind of retaining some of those specific traits to those, right? There are different implementations of Spring Data, or different projects under the Spring Data umbrella. The two of the most popular are Spring Data JDBC and Spring Data JPA. So yes, JPA is all about using JPA, the Java Persistence API. So that is a spec. One of the implementations of that is Hibernate. So Hibernate underneath the hood is being used. And if you're using JPA, it's great in certain projects. There's a little bit of overhead if you don't know Hibernate, if you've never worked with JPA or understanding how like an ORM works. So there's a little bit of overhead there. Spring Data JDBC kind of brings it back to more of like traditional SQL and building out different domains using domain-driven design. But at the end of the day, they both give you the features of Spring Data, which is, hey, I don't want to write all this CRUD functionality for a user in my system. I don't want to be able to list all the users, create one, update one, delete one, etc. You can basically create an interface, and Spring will turn that into an implementation for you at runtime to give you a lot of that CRUD functionality. So both Spring Data JBA and JDBC will do that for you. It's just a different way of thinking of how you're gonna build those systems out.
I like that explanation.
Cool.
And again,
I
I
hope
put that Spring Data, I put that as an umbrella over not just SQL, but also like your NoSQL, right? We have Spring Data Mongo, Spring Data Redis. You have a lot of options, but you have this consistency, right? That's one of the values that the framework brings, is you have this consistency as you're moving between these different systems.
And then Sid just said, I did not realize that we could do repository interfaces without JPA. I think that could be made clear. Also, I believe that Spring Data JDBC supports immutable entities, which JPA can't. Correct. So yes, you can use Spring Data repositories with JDBC. Every video that I've done on my channel that I use Spring Data JDBC for, I do examples of that. So if you want to check that out. And yes, one of the key features for me is I can use records in Java 17, in Spring Boot 3. I can use records to kind of define the data carrier classes in my application. And you can't do that with something like JPA. So I cut down on all that boilerplate. I just create a record in a repository and now have this access to get things in and out of my database.
And I don't default to RDBMS. I default to Redis, and I can do repositories with Spring Data Redis the same way. In fact, you can use the same models in your RDBMS and with Redis.
So yeah, and with Spring Data projects, you can talk to multiple databases. So you could have a user object in your Redis cache and in your SQL, your Postgres SQL database, right? So yeah, that's pretty cool.
Oh, here's a good question that I want to ask another question. Any plan to support Spring Cloud Load Balancer with REST client?
This works today. So if you go into like something like Spring Cloud Gateway, you can do load balancing with REST client. So that's exciting. If you want to learn more about that, we talked about that on the show with Rawson and Olga, where we went into like HTTP interfaces. So yes, there's an at load balanced or I don't know exactly which one, but yes, you can do that. So.
Fantastic. Oh, Jonas, welcome. Happy that you're here. So good stuff.
Cool.
Like, this is great. I'm feeling like we're starting the year on the right track. Let's go.
Yeah. All right. Cool. So that, I think I had one more thing that I wanted to focus on this year, which I get a lot of questions around Spring security. One thing I haven't done a deep dive into yet is authorization server. So once you get past like I have this basic app that needs to talk to one thing and like secure it and do some like OAuth dance. Like it works in a lot of like simple use cases, but when you get into large organizations, you need some type of authorization server. And I get a lot of questions around like, well, that was great, but what if I need to do refresh tokens? Or what if I need to like do this or do that?
You're talking my language. That's exactly where we're at.
Yeah. So that's another big thing that I want to focus on this year.
Good stuff. And there's layers to the whole like security thing, right? There's different things. We were talking about Spring Cloud Gateway and how we can use it for authentication, authorization, as a cross-cutting concern for a lot of things. And then you bring up, well, what if it's SSO? What if it's across multiple domains and you want to be able to hand off that authorization? Yeah, there's different layers to these things.
Yeah,
it's not just about...
and one of the things I haven't played with yet is in the newer versions of Spring Boot. I think it started in 3, and then we had a new version of this in 3.2, was the SSL key bundles. So this used to be like very hard to like manage these kind of bundles and use them across your application. And now this has gotten a lot easier. So I'm interested to play with that.
We're doing stuff. All right, Jonas is like, yes, I knew we got this feedback. Same model. Yeah, I have an example a project that basically takes the same model and it implements it as Spring Data JPA, and it changes the ID. I think is the only difference that you need to make, and it'll use the exact same model with Spring Data Redis, and then you can kind of compare for something like that 1 billion rows example. How long does it take you to write it? That's the type of approach that I would do. So I do have an example. If you would like to learn more, I could. I'll find that link. And Dan, I want you to throw the link to your blog up there as well. I'll find the link to my little Redis project.
All right.
That has the same model implemented as JPA and Spring Data Redis, and we'll make that available to you. And it's actually even been updated recently.
Yeah, and on that same kind of thought process there, I was talking about REST template or REST client. I did a video recently too because somebody asked a question of, "Hey, I see that you're using REST client or JDBC client. I'm sorry, not REST client, JDBC client, and you have the ability to talk to multiple databases. Can I use the JDBC client to talk to 2 different databases?" And that was a lot of fun to put together because part of Spring is like, hey, if we make some assumptions when you have like a database on the class path, we're going to get you a connection. We're going to create a data source bean. We're going to like read the properties from that. We'll create you a JDBC client bean so that you have that available. But when you have 2 of those, we're going to back off. Like you gotta tell me more about how to connect up to those. So I had a lot of fun putting that video together. Multiple data sources in Spring. Pretty easy to do, and then now the new clients in 3.2 are so awesome. I love talking about those.
Fantastic. So it's like these interesting edge cases. Like, where do you go once you've got outside of the kind of like here's the regular guidance? Once you've gotten outside of the defaults, the assumptions that we might make when we come into a new org or into your org, we might make some assumptions on how you're doing a microservice architecture or how you're connecting to a database or a cache. Once you've gotten like past that and you've got a unique kind of edge case that's not well documented, guess where? You can bring those questions here.
Yep.
And it's not just us. We don't have all the answers. We're going to make mistakes. But we've got the Spring team like Jonathan. They'll show up here on occasion when we're really, really lucky. And they're here to help you. So bring your questions because what do I like to say? If you come to my house for dinner and you leave hungry, that's your fault. We're going to have food. And if you come here and you've got questions and you don't ask, that's your fault. Don't leave hungry, especially when we got Jonathan here.
Well, now that you mentioned that, we tossed around some ideas like, hey, if you go to the website, ask a question. I see somebody just commented here regarding the upcoming Office Hours website, +1, a place to ask questions outside of Twitter, and also a place to get feedback on the show. Yeah. This to me lends more into like a GitHub discussions area.
Yeah.
Because then our friends like Jonathan could go in there and make a comment on that discussion. So maybe we'll do some kind of integration like that.
Fantastic.
Todd says, when is dinner? When's dinner at your house?
Todd, the next time that we are in the same geo, dinner's on me.
Oh man,
dinner's on me. I would love to hang out.
Or lunch. I hope that's all of us in Kansas City again because I want some of that barbecue.
Deal.
Whoa! What is with
deal?
Fireworks?
You did the thumbs up, man. You did the thumbs up.
Okay, I got another question here. Will the Spring Cloud Gateway Server MVC eventually match all the features of Spring Cloud Gateway Reactive Server?
This is a very good question.
Tricky question. Oh, yeah. Jonathan even said that. Tricky time zone. Oh, this is a tricky question. Sure, like you would hope that you would think that like hey, if there's a feature over here and there's not a feature over here that maybe we can align those. No, I don't think everything's gonna align perfectly, and it didn't to begin with, and I don't know that we're ever gonna get there. But I'm sure if there's feature requests coming, and on the MVC side that are missing, then I'm sure that I know Spencer and the team are taking a look at them. So
yeah, so one of the things. I guess I'm wondering what might be missing, what you're interested in. One of the cool things about the way that Spring MVC does it, it uses that the Spring functional DSL to establish its routes. So you can kind of chain things. You can chain your routes from one to the other and get similar outcomes and with a similar style of programming that you might do in the reactive world. So yeah, we're we're coming in, we're giving you options. Not we, the team is giving you options. Tiago, I would love to hear more about what you're looking for. Right now, I'm still defaulting to the reactive version.
And I would say, you know what Jonathan said earlier, if you find a feature that is not in MVC, that is in the reactive stack, that you feel like we are missing, then that is a perfect way to bring that to our attention. Go over to the Spring Cloud project on GitHub, file an issue. I know that is the number one place everyone is looking for those types of requests. So
I think another goal for us this year, and I think in past years, season 1 and 2, the goal, we want to help you feel more connected and give you a voice to the engineering team. And if you have concerns or hesitation around opening up an issue or opening up a feature request, we're here to help. Mm-hmm. It's teamwork makes the dream work. We all have to kind of be heard, and it's nice to be heard. And I think that this is a great opportunity for you to be heard because we have advocates and engineers here listening and providing feedback and answers directly during the live show. But for those of you that are watching the podcast, we want to help you open up issues or know where to go to find issues, to find examples. That's, I think, something that we'd like to do here.
Yep. Perfect. All right. And any other things that you're kind of focused on as far as like learning new things or things you want to help educate the community about? Is there anything kind of top of mind for you, or do we kind of cover everything?
I talked about the observability. I want to do a PR for that team. I want Jonathan to be the one that gets to give it the thumbs up. I'm going to be digging into Spring Monolith and kind of showing like a side by side some of these patterns, some of these examples that I'm doing with like YouTube and Spring AI and having this interface. I'm doing it as a microservice approach because I'm doing it live on stream and I can kind of work through one piece at a time and I can deliver it. But then on the other side, for another domain, I'll do it as a monolith, but provide the same functionality just to show a side by side of why this might be a better approach for some cases. So I'll be doing Spring Monolith, Java 22, and of course the upgrading. I'm going to continue to push to help pull all those workloads that are out there. They've been running for a long, long time, and they're on old versions of Java and old versions of Spring Boot. I want to help pull those forward into the new year on the newest, latest, and greatest versions of Java and Spring Boot.
That's awesome. There are just so many things to learn and so many things to talk about that this is a really good starting point. But as I said earlier, things may change. If we get 20 questions on this show next week about a certain thing, then maybe we will start talking about that more. Yeah. So like we said, we are an extension of the community. So if there are things that you want to hear about, if there are things that you're interested in learning more about, please feel free to let us know.
So that Jonathan's here and we have this question. Maybe we ought to bring Jonathan back and talk about what does observability mean in the Spring world? We talk about logs and tracing and metrics, but like, how does that play out? How is it different today in Spring Framework 6 and Spring Boot 3 than it was before?
Yep.
That might be a good thing to revisit sometime.
Jonathan does a really good job of defining like what are metrics, what are distributed logs, those types of things. I think one of the things that are confusing for me, at least when it comes to observability, that I would like to get some clarity on is there are all these different tools out there that kind of instrument and graph and display and show you all of these things that you're collecting. Mm-hmm. And I never know like which tool is for what, because different tools do different things, right? And so I think maybe that's one of the pieces of the puzzle. At least that's what I've kind of struggled with in the past. And maybe others have too.
And I'm going to throw this out there. This is one of my favorite resources. When I think of things observability, when I think of what I want to do going forward, Jonathan, who's here, he's got this great repository called T-House. Yep. And it's got great examples and it's got the Docker Compose. So it's easy to set up, easy to stand up and run and kind of explore.
Nice.
Metrics and logs and tracing. And it has these, utilities like Prometheus and Grafana and Loki, all built in, all ready to go to take it for a spin, to understand like maybe you're missing some things. If you're having a hard time with your observability, that's a great place to start.
All right, Jonathan, find a spot on your calendar on a Monday. Let's make this happen.
Yes, we're moving to Monday. We're moving to Monday.
All right. Cool. So that's all I had as far as like things I wanted to focus on. I did want to quickly talk about like conferences and spring office hours.
Yeah.
One of the things I love about this job that we get to do is being able to go to different conferences, talk to developers. A lot of times it's like I love speaking at these events, but the hallway track and being able to like sit down with your peers and like talk code, and I love doing that. So I'm excited to get out there again this year. I really want to get to some new conferences. There are certain conferences that I love, like DevNexus, that I unfortunately won't be able to get to this year. Things like KCDC, I hope I can get there just so I can have some burnt ends with you one night. But yeah, there are some really exciting conferences this year that I'm hoping to get to. My first ever Confu in Montreal, Canada, next month. I'll be going there. And I also have the Great International Developer Summit, GIDS, in Bangalore, India, which I am super excited about going to.
That's amazing.
I'm excited about those. Do you have anything kind of lined up that you're excited about or that you got your eye on?
Well, I'll be honest, you talked about hallway track. Earlier in the show, we talked about being proactive versus reactive and what I want to do this year. One of the things that I want to do, I'm looking at Todd, I'm looking at Jonathan, I'm looking at you. I want to spend more time kind of making sure that I'm not waiting until I land in Seattle to hang out with Jonathan.
Yep.
I want to have more opportunities to hang out with Jonathan and learn from him and hear what's going on, because I need those conversations in order to feel like I'm growing as well. And I think if I can have those conversations with Todd and with Jonathan and with you, and then I can share some of what I'm learning out with our customers and out with the community at large, I think that's going to be valuable. So I'm going to be more proactive about scheduling time with my friends, the people that I enjoy hanging out with.
That's a great idea. Just a quick question from Sid here on the live stream. Are these office hours scheduled weekly at the same time, or just look out for the notifications? So yes, going forward in season 3, they will be scheduled every Monday at 1 p.m. Eastern, unless we have a conflict that week for something. We will do a better job of getting these scheduled in advance. So when we're talking to you today, you will know what the next episode is going to be. Another thing you can do is right now to get a notification, if you go over to the Spring Developer channel and subscribe to Spring Developer, you will get notified when a new episode goes out. So those are some things. And then obviously when we get the new website up and running, we'll find a way to kind of keep you in touch and everything that's going on with the show.
Fantastic.
Cool. So conferences, and then I just put down spring office hours. Again, I don't have any like measurable goals with this show yet, because I think for the first 2 seasons, I wasn't, we see the numbers, but I've never really been worried about numbers, or like, we report these numbers. That's part of our job, but nobody's asking us like, you better get this many viewers this week or this many total views. Like we're not getting any push like that. Right. So I've never been worried about numbers. But I think one thing going into season 3 that I want to do is pay a little bit more attention to both the live streams and the podcasts to see where we are, to give ourselves like a kind of benchmark and say, what can we do to improve things? Because yes, I mean, I'm not beholden to some like goal of like 1,000 views or something. Like that's not why we're doing this. But why we are doing this is to get involved in the community. And if there are ways that we can kind of help promote this show and get more involved with the community, that's, I think, where I'm more interested in looking at the numbers.
The people that are here on the live stream and the people that are listening on the podcast are the most important people for this show. Like there's no goal for anything. We're not trying to reach anybody else. The people that are here that are wanting to have dinner, that have questions, that are wanting to learn more, you are the most important people at this time. So we really just want to connect and help. And if it's just one, it's just one, and that's fine. One of the other things, I do have a goal for this community. Thomas was, early in the community, and he's been great. And I'm glad you're here, Thomas. I like to reference you a lot. And Yeah, got to see Thomas in person at a conference and doing amazing things. And he continues to be a developer advocate, community developer advocate, and grow. And he's doing more conferences. And one of the things, I hope you don't mind me saying, he's like, hey, here's an abstract. Would you mind reviewing this abstract for me and give a little feedback? I want to do that for more. I'm full transparency. My goal is I want another community member, somebody from our Spring Office Hours community. I want to help somebody, just one, get on stage at some conference, whether it's KCDC or DevNexus or somewhere, or whether it's just a jug. I want to help somebody feel more comfortable about presenting, especially if it's around spring.
Yep.
I just want to be that. That's one of my goals.
That's great, because that is going to tie in nicely to our conversation next week about DevRel, because one of the big things with DevRel is public speaking. It's still one of those things that like scare people away, and you don't need to be. Like, it could just be at a jug with 10 people there. I mean, I don't know how many people are at your jug, but sometimes we have 10 people.
82 at the Montreal jug a couple weeks ago.
Oh, wow. That's pretty awesome. But yeah, I mean, if you're not at the Montreal, if you're, you could find a way to talk to 10 people for 10 minutes. It doesn't need to be an hour presentation that's polished. So let's talk about some of that next week. That'll be interesting.
That sounds great.
Cool. So, I think that was a lot of what I wanted to cover today. Anything else you're looking forward to in 2024?
This is my favorite part of the week. This is what I'm looking forward to. Just doing more of this.
So I guess, we should say, because Java and Spring Boot get releases every 6 months, we will see Java 22 and Java 23 this year. It's just still kind of crazy to think about, right? We will see Spring Boot 3.3 and Spring Boot 3.4 later this year, probably on Thanksgiving again.
Yep. That week.
But yeah, that's crazy to think about, that we're on those versions of the things that we love and use every single day. So,
and we're not doing it in a silo. The engineering team loves feedback, Stack Overflow, GitHub issues. We want to help you do that more, be more comfortable doing that.
Yeah.
Because it takes a team, it takes a community to make these products last as long as they've lasted.
Todd says, my presentations are never polished.
I
don't believe it.
I need to flash. This is lies detected. How do I do that?
I saw a good quote from Scott Davis in one of the developer relations books I have. And he said, the audience doesn't know my lines. It's not a fair fight. Because unless you're fumbling, they don't know if you've messed something up, because there's not a script. This is your presentation. You get to kind of give it based on your experience, not as the aforementioned expert in the field, because I don't know that any of us are. I'm not. Mm-hmm. A lot of fun things to talk about there. So cool. Well,
what a great way to start off season 3.
What a great way. Season 3, episode 1. Wow. I can't believe we're in season 3. We're going to have a lot of fun this year. Again, just a reminder, we are moving to Mondays. So next Monday, we will be here at 1 p.m. Eastern. We will also be continuing to kind of push this out to a podcast. So hopefully that will happen Monday night. You'll see the podcast on Tuesday morning. And we have a lot of exciting things planned. I think, one of the other things I mentioned in there is I want to get better at us doing podcasts on the road. We had talked about a couple of things that we can do. I want to do that. I want to do podcasts on the road this year. So look out for that as well.
Count me in.
Cool. Well, DaShaun, it was great seeing you. I love that we are in season 3. I love that this is our first episode. And I'm excited about everything we're going to do this year. So
let's go.
Let's do it. All right. Thank you, everyone. We will see you next week on Spring Office Hours. Happy coding.